Hi, Barnes& and Noble audiences. I have the pleasure of getting to interview the authors and illustrator. Well, there's just one author, and then there's one illustrator, so I apologize for the plurality of what I just did. Alasdair Beckett-King and Claire Powell. We are going to talk about Montgomery Bonbon and their adventures as detectives. Would you, Alistair, please give me the rundown on our favorite detective? I'm sorry, the world's greatest
The
detective.
world's greatest, certainly the best in East Yorkshire. Yes, happy to. Hi,
Thanks.
Michelle. Thank you for having me.
You're
Um,
welcome.
I'm Alistair. I wrote Montgomery Bonbon, Murder at the Museum, and it's all about Bonnie Montgomery, who is a 10-year-old girl who's brilliant at solving mysteries. But if you're 10, you're not really allowed to solve mysteries. You're not really allowed to do much police work at all. You never get to solve murders because people don't really let kids do that because murder is frowned upon in our society. And
Weird.
so Bonnie solves mysteries in the guise of Montgomery Bonbon, the brilliant foreign detective who has a beret and a raincoat and a big bristly mustache and an accent that's kind of vague. The accent is a lot less convincing than the mustache. And so with this kind of double identity, Bonnie has to solve real, proper, knotty mysteries, and there are quite a few jokes along the way, with the assistance of Grandpa Banks, her grandfather slash detective's assistant. The best bit about it, annoyingly, is the illustrations that I didn't have any involvement in.
Oh, Claire, would you please tell us how terrible it was to write with Alistair?
I mean, it was so bad. I'm doing it 4 times at least.
At least, is there
Wow,
going to be more
I'm
than
so
that?
sorry.
No, because he's not very nice to work with. I
I
know.
Phew.
look, I'm a very difficult genius, and you just have to accept that.
Do you want to tell me anything about yourselves? Hmm.
I like watching snooker.
And that is kind of like billiards,
Yeah,
which is kind of like pool. Are they
yeah.
all three the same?
No,
Do,
I think there's
do
something
Americans not
different
have
about the
snooker?
table sizes.
No.
Yeah.
Snooker isn't a game in the United States. This is the first I'm
No,
hearing of
it's
that.
pool or
What?
billiards.
Yeah, we just do pool.
You just do
Wow.
pool. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think the table sizes are different, but I'm sure somebody will be telling us that I'm incorrect. But that's a fun fact about me that isn't
That's
probably isn't
incredible.
that fun.
But you just
Other
watch it, you
things,
don't play it?
no, no, I don't play it. I haven't
I
got
guess
time.
in the American version, you pick up the balls and run with them, like in
Oh, we put
American
them in
football.
our pockets and we weigh ourselves down and as far as we can get into the water if we don't drown. That's how it works here in America.
Wow.
Yeah,
What a
yeah,
country.
I know.
Yeah.
Other than that, I live in a place called Derbyshire, which is quite countryside. Um, and there's pheasants here and lots of hills. And I
A
go,
lot of murders because it's a small town, I'm assuming.
I don't know, I don't go out much,
Oh.
so there could be. I might be the only one left in my village, who knows? I guess I know when I go out next month. You
Oh,
know,
for food?
Alistair keeps me working very hard with all the
Yeah.
illustrations, so I only get to go out once or twice a month, really.
Wow, Alistair.
Yeah, I
Just
know.
email you a stern picture of my face. Like,
Yeah,
where's that picture? Quite a lot
yeah.
of drawing's not finished yet.
Behind
That's
schedule
terrifying.
again.
How behind schedule are you, Claire?
Oh, only 4 days.
Okay. So,
That's nothing.
no.
That's basically ahead of schedule, four
I'm
days.
ahead. I'm basically ahead because normally I would be 3 weeks behind, but now
Yeah.
I'm only four behind, 4 days. So technically I'm ahead of my own schedule.
And
Well,
with the time
congrats.
difference to America, you're basically in the future. So
Oh yeah, I mean,
congratulations.
the book isn't even written yet, so I've got loads of time.
Alistair, are you finished with the book so that Claire can actually
I Yes,
illustrate it?
actually, I have the fourth Bonbon book. I have pretty much finished it. I've finished, signed off on the draft. Nothing can change now, except when an editor comes back and goes, "Hey, this doesn't make sense. There's a whole massive mistake in chapter three. We
Ugh.
have to change everything at the last minute." But yeah, it's finished.
You can't do that. You can't change anything because
You're
I'm
not
about to
allowed to change
illustrate.
things because they've all been drawn. Yeah,
I've
Oh no.
sketched it out. You can't change a thing now.
it's all locked in.
It is.
So I get the impression that you both work well together, unless this is all a ruse on top of a ruse, which again, it's a detective series, so it could be. How do you with the difference? I know that we're in technology and we can do this, but do you talk to each other frequently or is it all email?
No, we're kept apart.
Yeah, I'm not normally allowed to see Claire. It's very weird and quite 19th century, I think.
That's
But
just my restraining order that I
through no choice
There's
or
a
fault of my
reason for
own,
that, Alistair.
I never get to talk to Claire, for some reason. I think I would try and help in a way that was unhelpful if I were allowed to talk to Claire. And quite rightly, the very talented designer Jamie deals with Claire. And the great thing about that for me is that then the drawings come back full of like surprises and jokes that I have never thought of and had no idea about. And then afterwards, people will point out particular drawings and say, "Did you write that? Did you tell the illustrator to do that?" And I have to go, "No, that was Claire's idea."
I bet you don't. I bet you're
Everything.
like, yeah.
I say, yeah, Claire
Yeah,
Powell is a
sorted.
pseudonym. It's actually me. I did the whole thing.
Yeah,
Claire is actually an actress I've hired for the Zoom.
exactly.
Wow, you're incredible, Claire. You should get more work, I hope, from this alone. Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
expect you to be
I
on
deserve
SVU here in America because that's where actors go. So you guys got together last year, 2 years ago. Were you put together by the publisher or Alistair, did you seek her out?
I really wanted Claire to illustrate these books because I think Claire's drawings are so funny and full of character that I love the inkiness of the lines. I love the way that I was going to say they're not too precise. That suggests sloppiness. That's not what I mean, Claire. But
it.
they're hand drawn. You can feel the texture of the paper. You can
Yeah.
feel the sort of the bleed of the watercolor coloring when they're colored. And also, there's a lovely use of sort of flattened perspective. I'm a big fan of
Mm.
like mid-century American animations where perspective often gets sort of flattened out and floorboards can be at all crazy angles. And that's something Claire uses really well. In Murder at the Museum, there are some lovely drawings of the museum with depth where everything is sort of compressed into a sort of quite a flat space and it fits perfectly on the page. And so, as soon as I saw Claire's work, I was like, oh, this would be so good for the story.
Well,
Well,
because I had to sample to do Montgomery Bonbon. I had to, so I did, yeah, I think I sampled. I had to do um, character drawings of Bonbon. And I remember I did it on the sofa whilst watching the Eurovision Song Contest. And then I sent those across, and I think they must have been shared with you, Alistair, and then with the wider sort of team.
Mm.
And yeah, I think I got the job from that. So it was sort of a sample, but not really. I don't think they approached anybody else. It was more sort of like, here's the first four chapters of Murder at the Museum, and how would you draw Bonnie, etc., etc. And I remember thinking, this is great. And so yeah, I did my Bonnie and then got the gig.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think they might have been covering up how keen I was for you to do it there. When if they were like, could you just try this maybe? They
Oh,
might have
really?
been they might have been toning down how much I was like, no, I think she should draw it. This would be good.
Unless I'm misremembering, which is also possible because it was 2 years ago, and but I'm sure I did that. Unless they sent it me out of the blue and it was just the first four chapters, and then I might have illustrated Bonnie because I was so excited about it. It was one of the two. But I remember reading the first four chapters and thinking, because I was well, still am a massive sort of Poirot murder mystery fan, and I'd been saying to my agent for quite a while, I want to do sort of a murder mystery, but I want it to have a bit of a twist. And then this landed in my inbox, and I thought couldn't be more perfect. So yeah, I think that was 2022, was
I think so. So yeah, the
it?
book came out in the UK a couple of years ago, and
God, I
now it's
lose
coming out
track now.
in the United States brackets of America.
so you guys came together. Alasdair, you had never written, correct, anything besides stand-up?
I actually couldn't write. I had to learn the whole alphabet just to write the first book, so it was a really
All
arduous
26
process.
letters?
Well, I
No, he
skipped
only
over the
knows
ones.
24.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, I
really
didn't.
obvious when you
You
read the
don't
book.
really need why. I'm
You
just
don't.
saying, you don't really need it. Yeah, so no, as a stand-up comedian, what you do is you write jokes, but you don't really write them. You just sort of say them, and
Mm.
then occasionally you write you write like sitcom scripts that then nobody commissions. That's
Oh,
the life
good.
of the stand-up comedian for the most part. Very occasionally, someone gets a sitcom commission, but most of the time you write them and nothing happens. So I had this was probably the first time sat down and wrote something where it turned into a thing at the end of it, and it's really scary writing a kid's book because when you do stand up, the audience lets you know at the end of every sentence if they're enjoying it by laughing or frowning. But with the kids' book, I had to do the whole book, and then only at the end do you find out if anybody likes it. And even then, it only no children get to read the book until it's out there in libraries and schools and things. So it's really you have to hold your nerve.
Have you gotten to go into schools and libraries and talk to them? The
Yeah,
children,
that's
that is.
yeah. They're not the library workers and the teachers.
No.
No, they let me talk to everyone. Yeah, so I've done a number of school events, and that's great because kids love murder. Kids love anything that's a bit morbid and weird or gothic, arcane and slightly wrong. And so getting to go in there and talk about solving murders and mysteries and that sort of thing, they get very excited about that sort of thing. And they react really well, as I said, to Claire's illustrations, and I take those
Nothing you've
illustrations and
done.
I show
Got
them.
it.
Nothing. They just don't really like me or my work, but the drawings, let me tell you, very good.
Claire, do you get to go too?
No, I don't. With fiction, illustrating fiction, you don't tend to actually. Picture books, sometimes you do, but I think as a general rule, fiction, I don't tend to go along with the authors. It tends to be their cup of tea. They go and handle all of that, and I just work on the next book. So,
That's a
yeah,
shame. I
I
think we
haven't.
should go around the country in like a mystery van, like Scooby Doo,
Oh,
solving
an ice
mysteries.
cream van. We
Yeah,
need to
or an
buy
ice
an ice
cream
cream
van.
van, paint
Yes.
it grey, and
So
then go
in the
around
books,
that.
Grandpa Banks drives an ice cream van, so that was a
Oh,
reference
yeah,
to the
sorry.
book.
Yes.
That was a
But
nerdy book, Montgomery Bonbon
If you
reference.
actually read the book, you would have got
You
that.
know,
I,
No.
are you talking to me or someone else? Because
just anyone.
but why can't you go? Do you not get to go to schools and help them learn how to illustrate? Like, is that not a thing you get to do?
I guess as well it depends because my sort of schedule the last 2 or 3 years has actually been quite full, thankfully, gratefully. And so when you work, because of course sometimes I will work on one book and thinking it's going to be one book, but then it turns into a series of 3 or 4, and then all of a sudden you've got 3 or 4 series all going on at the same time, and suddenly you think, ah. Then you end up not being able to sort of go out and do school visits and stuff like that. So I guess for the last 3 years, I've mostly been working and making the books rather than going and spending time with the children. But in a way, I don't necessarily think that that's a great thing, though, because it means that I am a little bit disconnected from the audience. So I tend to do all my drawings, send them off, and then they go in a box, and then I'm on to the next thing. And I don't really ever get to meet the people that are reading the books. So this year, I'm hoping for a better balance of that, actually. It can be a bit of an isolating job if you're not, and especially if you only leave the house, twice a month like I do. So,
Because of the
Yeah.
murders. Yeah,
and
yeah.
when my village has all been, wiped out by a murderer.
One of my favorite things that you did, Claire, was lead a sort of draw along for schools. I think we did it online, and it was
Oh
great
yeah,
because you sort of taught kids how to draw Bonnie or dressed as Montgomery Bonbon. And we, the grown-ups, got to draw along as well, and because it's deceptively challenging. You get all the parts in the right place, but it comes out. She's got her torso's 3 times longer than it should be.
yeah.
But it was great to see kids' versions of Bonnie, yeah, in the raincoat, the red raincoat, and the beret, and they sort of sent through their takes on the characters. That was really fun.
Do you have yours handy so we can see what you did?
No, I'm
So
sorry.
pleased.
Will I draw one really fast? I'll draw a really bad bunny really fast.
Can't wait. With the Swifts, we're on our second or our
I've
up,
illustrated 2,
right.
and I'll be doing the 3rd.
Yes.
Yeah, this year. Yeah, this year. I lose track because, of course, I illustrate them, and then there's such a big gap
Yeah, they're
between
gone.
me illustrating them and well, sometimes there's a gap, sometimes there isn't. I think actually with the Swifts it was pretty quick turnaround, but I lose track then of what book I'm on and what year they came out and when the next one is. It's all like, ugh. So yeah, I think the 3rd. I'm due to work on the 3rd Swifts this year, and I think it will be out in the autumn in the UK. I don't know about the States.
That is the best I can do for my really fast. She doesn't even have a magnifying glass. Why are you laughing? Is that a laugh of it's good or a laugh of it's not good?
I'm just so surprised by the speed at which you did it with.
That was edited down massively from a 45-minute pause.
Yeah.
It's true. We did turn off while you made that.
We made that spot on.
My reaction was
Interpretation.
genuine surprise.
Oh, just dazzled by the quality of the drawing.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's not bad for 5 seconds you did it in.
that's
Thank you.
true.
I will
With a
not.
Sharpie as well. Like drawing with a Sharpie is the worst.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
You
Just
can't do a thick line,
facts
but you
and
also can't do a thin line.
No.
So they're just perfect for
But
not
just
ever
and it's
being the width you want.
continuous. It's like, so if you make a mistake, the mistake just continues all the way around. You can't get away from it. I hate them.
And it seeps through to the page underneath, so you've got a backup mistake.
Yeah.
So that's handy.
One drawing takes out 6 or 7 pages of a notebook.
This has turned into an anti-Sharpie.
Yes.
diatribe.
Sorry, Michelle.
We are not sponsored by Sharpie. In fact, we are sponsored by Barnes and Noble without an S.
Without an
Barnes
S.
and Noble, just one.
One.
Insist on only one.
Alasdair, you never answered, mostly because Claire had so much more important things to say. What fun thing about you? We have Snooker over here.
Yeah, I've got to complete with snooker again. Nobody in America seems to
Snooker,
have
I'm
heard
sorry.
of.
Apologies.
I like snooker. Snooker sounds like a really cool way of saying it. Well, yeah, I also don't leave the house a lot. I'm from the north of England, which I don't really know how to describe that in a way that makes sense for America. I guess it's like a bit like if
Above
New Jersey
London.
was worse, maybe. I don't know. And now I live in London, which is the capital city of England. But I feel I have betrayed my northern roots by leaving.
Did you have to leave because of murders?
They made me leave for reasons for legal reasons I can't comment on. But it's not important. I definitely don't look into that. Fun things about me, yeah, I don't leave the house very much. I mostly just watch old episodes of Murder, She Wrote on television and DVD now. I'm sure the kids don't know what a DVD is, but in the olden days, you could get films onto a slice of metal and watch them.
Plastic. Do you have them on
Shiny
metal
plastic.
in America? I mean, in the UK, you guys are so.
Yeah, are they metal?
Yeah, no, I have them on wood, actually. I have some nice vintage
I
wooden
think, yeah,
DVDs.
they're wooden.
They're metal coloured. I'm not on
They
trial
are
here.
actually. I'm now a bit like, hang on a minute, what are they made of? I
I
don't
think
know.
they're made of plastic.
plastic.
Yeah, they are
They are
plastic, but
metallic.
they look like metal.
Yeah.
Not that we need to go down this far, but I'm really curious. Does the Murder, She Wrote DVDs have behind the scenes?
Annoyingly, it doesn't. What the best thing it does have is, there would normally be ad breaks, but on the DVD there aren't ad breaks, and so the scenes just run on too long before the ad break because they don't cut away to the ad break. So you just get the wonderful Jessica Fletcher at the end of a scene going, ah, and then sort of having to sort of freeze frame, and she just does like 4 different facial expressions, and she's like,
so they didn't even edit it?
I don't know why. And maybe that's just she's such a good actor. They just like to leave a really long pause at the end of the scenes, but I enjoy it every time.
That makes me want to buy the DVD.
I mean, okay, every series has a few episodes that aren't very good, but there's some really good stuff in there. She's a very good actress. She's great.
Angela Lansbury is a legend, and I would watch her do anything
Yeah. She played
unless
Miss
I had to
Marple as
pay for
well.
it.
Oh
Oh, did
yeah,
she?
she's
Yeah,
great.
there's a really good Miss Marple. She's far too young. She did it before Murder She Wrote. She's far too young for Marple, so she's under a lot of quite theatrical makeup, but it's very good.
Mm.
Oh,
We did
great.
all of Columbo, and then we moved on to Murder She Wrote, and briefly watched Ellery Queen, the short-lived Ellery Queen series by the
Oh,
same
I don't know that
producers.
one.
It was before Columbo, and it got cancelled. It didn't quite
Oh,
work, but
okay.
No
but it was
cigar.
kind of good, but it didn't really work.
Hmm.
Claire, do you do mystery shows, or are you more into, let's see, like the Grey's Anatomy that's been running for the
Oh
last
no, no,
25 years?
no.
You
I
mainly
like
watch Eurovision, I think, Claire. Just Eurovision and
Just
apart
football.
from
Eurovision.
I'm a massive Euro. I mean, I've literally watched it once, and now I'm going to get a reputation that I'm a massive Euro fan.
Always watching
But
Eurovision.
always on repeat, just permanently. I have recorded Eurovision on my wooden DVD, and I just play that every day. No, I am a huge fan of period dramas. That's where my go-to is period drama. So films, TV shows, Downton Abbey. We just watched all of those. Love
Gilded
that.
Age.
But yes, watch that. But also then for me, what I love is the sort of Poirot, Miss Marple, anything like that, because then you get a little bit of maybe not, full on Victorian-y, but you've still got those stylized sort of pre-war, all that kind of thing. I love everything like that. If it's after 1950 odd, I'm not that interested, basically.
Agatha Christie. I assume, based on our discussion of, well, a word that is French, so therefore I cannot say, you both are, you've read some of her books, maybe? Or is it just television that
I
has?
have to confess, I've read a fair number of mystery books. I've read a lot of impossible crimes and short stories, but I don't think I've ever actually read an Agatha Christie book. Is that an acceptable confession?
I'm the same. I don't
I've
think now
I've
that
read
you've
Marjorie
said,
Allingham.
yeah,
Um, I've
I
read
must have done.
Wilkie Collins. I've read lots of mystery stories, but I don't think
I
I've read an
know.
Agatha Christie.
Can
You
you
guys
edit
are
this out?
British.
Edit it out. Edit this out.
I'm so
No,
sorry. I feel
this
like
is
I've let
staying.
Britain
How
down.
many
I
have you
wrote
read,
Agatha Christie's
Michelle? How
books.
many have you read, Michelle? Let's turn the
Um,
question back on
hear
Yeah,
Michelle.
you.
yeah, Michelle.
I I think it was when I was about 15, I went through an Agatha like I read as much as I could. Do I have any memories? No. But do I remember what I ate yesterday? Again, no. So
Yeah.
don't let, oh my gosh, there is an amazing young adult book called The Agathas. It's Kathleen, Liz Lawson and Kathleen, a woman I love so much. Anyway, they have this series of detectives that is kind of taken from Agatha Christie in a way. So if you ever have a chance,
I'm
you
going to
know,
write
have
that
these
down.
listening.
Yeah,
That would,
that sounds brilliant.
oh, so good. It's so, it, and it also has so much, because it's young adult, it has, like, it helps kids, like, have feelings, which, is important, I've been told.
Well, we
Feelings.
need that in the UK because British people usually don't have feelings outwardly, at
Feelings.
least. So this is why we need books.
So where do your feelings go? Into the books you write?
Just down
Onto
there
the
on the
wooden
inside.
DVDs.
Just
We put them on
just
wooden,
we just burn them onto wooden DVDs and post
and
them.
then just file them away in a nice little
Yeah,
DVD case
send them off to a
that
PO
you can
box.
buy from probably Barnes and Noble.
I think you can buy them at Barnes and Noble. Claire, what about you? Were you, well, it doesn't have to be murder, but like what made you become an illustrator? Was it based on picture books or was it just that you were a great drawer, artist?
I think
Drawer is how you pronounce it. Yeah.
drawer.
Are you a good drawer?
I'm a good drawer. I think it's that classic story that I think a lot of illustrators will tell, which is that the first thing they picked up was a pencil, and I drew before I could read, really. And it was a bit of a winding path, though, to becoming a professional full-time illustrator. So I started drawing at home, and I used to go into the cupboard under the stairs. And this was
Okay,
way
Harry.
before Harry Potter, so I think J.K. Rowling may have stolen something from me here. But it was, and my mum and dad tell this story where one day they were a bit like, "Oh, where is our beloved only child? We seem to have misplaced her." And they frantically searched the house, and they found me under the stairs. And I'd gone in there with some of my toys, and I had my pencil and some paper, and I was quite happy. So my dad turned it into an art den. And I used to go in there and I would draw all day, every day, just in there. And I remember I used to draw, copy things, actually. So my favorite books were by Lucy Mabel Atwell. I don't know if you know her, but she was very sort of prolific. She did everything. Prayer books and greeting cards and all, and I loved her illustrations. They were always of like chubby little kids and ducks, and everything was very round, and it felt like you could prod them and that they would be spongy. And I used to draw them, and Holly Hobby, and I copied a lot from the books that I loved. But then I went to school and stopped drawing because I guess, not that it wasn't, I did it at home, but I think in school it was that sort of time where everything was, you were being pushed to be more sort of academic. And I remember going to see my careers advisor, and she said that I couldn't make money from illustration, so I better be a graphic designer instead. So I went to, and this was before the internet, like I went to uni in 1998. So it was just when, like, you know, Apple was starting to come into the market scene. And I remember my first computer at uni was, though they're really retro now, but the coloured back Apple computers, that was the first computer I had. And so I did graphic design, and I was a graphic designer for about 15 years. And I ended up doing print design, and then I did TV graphic design. I retrained and did that, and I moved to London. And it was whilst I was working in a job for TV that it got me back into animation, because I was working with animators. And I was rebranding television channels, and we worked with DreamWorks actually in the States. And that sort of was the doorway, I think, back to illustration. So I was rebranding television channels, and then I was rebranding animation channels. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, cool, these are like drawings. And I made a short animated film. And it took me 5 years. It nearly finished me off. It was not short at all. It was the longest thing I've ever done ever. But that got me back into drawing. And then I did a children's picture book course in the evenings. And then I eventually dropped down to 4 days a week at work, and I met my agent and she represented me. And then in 2016, I went freelance. So it wasn't, you know, I didn't go to uni and do illustration, and I sort of meandered a bit. But it feels like it's all served me quite well, though, because I think all the jobs I've done, graphic design, helped me with page layout for books, and the work I did in television really helped me with the page turns that you see now, because it's all about, you know, we used to have to storyboard things. And so actually, even though I do sometimes wish that I'd done illustration from a much earlier age, everything that I did is actually very useful to me now. Yeah, that's how I became an illustrator. It's a long story.
And it was a good one, and I applaud it.
Thank you for listening so attentively.
Alasdair, I'm assuming that you went to uni, as you say.
Uni? I went to uni in a British
what
accent.
Did you do at uni?
I went to uni. I did.
Did you do comedy?
No, what he did was you tried to get on that Univision. What is the thing you guys
Eurovision. Do? We keep talking about Eurovision.
The Univision. I love that. That could.
If you don't know what Eurovision is,
unicorn?
I would love to know.
I will send you a wooden DVD of Eurovision if you want to see it. I went to film school, so I did film at university, and then I went to film school after that. And like Claire, I spent years making really, really short films that nobody liked. Nobody liked my films. I didn't mean to imply that nobody liked Claire's animated films.
I don't know that I didn't show anyone, so I don't actually know. It was so traumatizing. I
It's
made it and then
horrible.
I literally did put it on DVD. It is on a DVD and nobody's ever seen it. It's hilarious.
Wow. Oh,
Well,
you
we'll
might
Yeah.
be
be able to
your
see it now.
audience if you want to send it to us.
But
Yeah.
I might do. I might just do that. Although nobody
I
now
would
even
love to
has a
see it.
DVD player, so you can't watch it. It's defunct. Anyway,
I
sorry.
have one
I
because of
interrupted.
watching Columbo. So
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And
Back
I
to
have one for
Alice's
Murder, She
story.
Wrote.
You were
yeah.
making films that nobody saw.
I was making films nobody liked, and when I left film school, I started doing stand-up comedy because it is much cheaper to be an unsuccessful comedian than it is to be an unsuccessful filmmaker. Because I could do 5 minutes of bad comedy every single night living in London, whereas making a 5 minute film would take months and months, and it would cost money, and it would make no money. And so it still took me years and years and years to get any kind of traction in stand up. So it's quite similar to Claire's story. Very gradually and incrementally built up a sort of body of work and a skill set that was kind of useful. When we were all locked down, I could make little videos, and I made videos. And one of those videos was an interactive murder mystery, which I was sort of a play along thing where people were, responding to me over social media, and I was putting out a different interview with a different suspect each day. And that started a conversation with Walker Books in the UK, the sister slash non-binary sibling of
Thank you.
Candlewick, the publishers in the US. And yeah, and Walker said, you got an idea for a children's mystery series there? And I said yes, which does make me feel a little bit cheeky because most authors spend ages working on a manuscript and then send it off to publish and then get millions of no's, whereas I kind of cheated my way in with doing a weird online thing. But I still worked really hard on the book. It did take ages.
And it shows.
I do have a big box of the artwork. Let me grab it.
Oh,
Look, it's a big box though. This is all the Bonbon work. Yeah, look.
Oh my God.
ah, that's such a great drawing.
That is, oh
Can you see it properly?
That's Bonnie and Grandpa Banks at the
Yeah.
Hornville Museum.
So yeah, they're all in here.
all right. So Claire and Alasdair, I have taken up so much of your time to talk about one of my favorite books that is coming out this year on February 11th. And you can buy it where, guys?
Barnes and Noble.
Barnes and Noble.
That's right.